This is an interview with Ruth Cook at Shirton on the 14th of November 2013. Thank you very much for coming in today, Ruth. I really appreciate this. You grew up as a young girl in Stogursey.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me about your family and how you came to be living in Stogursey.
Well, Mum and Dad, my Mum came from Street and Dad came from Bordra. And they met up married. And I think to begin with, they lived at Enmore. Then they moved to Clayland Corner. And Dad was farm labourer. And then from there I appeared in 1931. And we lived in Clayland Corner till I was 7. And Dad had put in for this farm, it was a tenancy of a farm.
Right.
And he put in for it and had it. Yeah.
Which farm was that?
Down Mill Street. They called it the Tan Yard then.
I know.
Yeah, and I know everybody says if Father could see it now.
Yes.
And we had the big house in Main Street in Stogursey, that was the dairy. And we actually had the dairy there. And like Mum used to make cream, and Sundays people used to come with their dish for the cream and a jug for the scald milk.
Lovely. So this was all from your own cows?
Yes, yes.
Who milked them?
Oh, Dad and his helper for years. Then eventually he did, have, when it came in, the milking machine. I think he was about one of the...
So you didn't have to go out and help milk the cows?
No, did Mum.
Well, that's
Never had Mum on the farm.
So let's see, you were born in 31, so it's 1938 when you moved to the dairy.
Yeah.
And you were in Stogursey during the war years.
Yes.
What are your memories from that period?
Well, I know we used to get frightened when we hear the German, and we had a long dark passage with no windows, so we used to sit in there till we hear, now it was safe to come out again.
Heard the all clear. Did you get any incidents?
No, not actually in Stogursey, no.
But
there were landmines, I think that was Lowestoft or Kilton, they dropped landmines, and that was when they were going, they used to offload then to get home quicker.
So they jettisoned their bombs so they could get off home.
Yeah.
Charlie was telling me you had a narrow squeak.
Oh yes, but the plane came down through the village. I was just going out with Dad. Well, Dad was in front, opened the door because we had a long passage to get to the front. And he turned round, he pushed me, and lucky I went against the wall, and that was this German plane machine gunning all down the village.
But no one was hit, no one was injured, luckily.
No. But just say a friend, Frida, told me that there's still the bullet holes in the church door. They do, I don't know if that was right, they said there were some in the priory door, but I'm not quite sure on that one.
I shall have a close look next time I'm down there.
Yeah. But perhaps we could out of Jean, Eileen, Jean, innit, Warner? She might know more, because she's that bit younger than me, and Eileen was that bit younger. Yeah.
So you were in Stogursey when the troops were stationed here?
Yes, and I say, it wasn't the Americans, it was the British down at Paddens.
That was the Searchlight?
Yeah, Searchlight battery, yeah.
Battery. How many of them, can you remember?
I can't remember really.
No. But there were Americans around here.
Yes, Americans. The whites were at Kilton and the black Americans at Orfoxton. Yeah.
Right. And they'd keep them well apart.
Yes, till they came in the village. And sometimes Dad come home and said they were fighting. I think that was after they had a drink or two.
I'm amazed the military police let them mix at all. Asking for trouble, really.
Yeah.
Did you see any trouble yourself as a young girl?
No, never allowed out after dark.
No.
Oh, I wasn't very old either.
Well, no.
No.
What about school? Did you go to school in the village?
Yes. Always went to school in the village. Yeah.
Was it a good school then? Did you enjoy that?
Yes, yeah.
Who was your teacher?
I think Mrs. Hobbs, I think, was in the, I can't remember anybody for that, Mrs. Hobbs infant school, in the infant class, and a Miss Reese in what, the second. It was number 4. And then it was a big hall, like big room, and it was divided by screens into 3 other classes. So you had 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1.
I see.
2, 3, 2 and 1 were divided by screens in those days, yeah.
Wasn't it difficult to concentrate with lessons going on all around you?
Oh, I don't know, I didn't realise. No, first of all, I had a I've got to think of his name now. Oh, Mr. Goff was the school teacher. But then Mr. Lane, he came later. We're still in the war he came, I remember, because we used to dress up. Because Mum used to get up dances to raise money for our local, lads that were in the forces. And I know we used to put on lipstick, and he used to grumble on Monday mornings to us putting on lipstick. I remember that.
So you must have had a lot of friends in the village at the time.
Oh, yes, yeah.
When you weren't at school, what did you do to pass the time without television and so on?
All sorts of things. And then, we'd go out blackberrying and whortleberrying. We used to do that, get money for fare.
Yes.
And of course people then came round to collect the berries because they made dye of them in the war. They were used for dye. Especially the whortleberries, as they say, they made a good dye.
Who would collect them?
But I think Mr. Bartlett, Francis Bartlett used to. I mean, he lived in Netherstoy, but he used to come down Stogursey. I don't know if he went to any other villages, but he did come down Stogursey.
Where did you go for the whortles? Up on the Quantocks?
Pardon?
Where did you go for the whortles? Up on the Quantocks?
On the Quantocks, yeah.
So you walked up all the way?
Well, you could catch a bus so far, and then we'd have to walk up, right up the coombe. Yeah.
Well, people did walk a lot.
Yeah.
Did you go over certain bars a great deal?
Quite a bit, yes. Yeah.
Which way did you go? Did you go down Night Lane?
Yes, and over the field, yeah.
Oh, lovely.
And I used to remember the lovely bee orchids that were down there. I don't know if there are any still about down there.
I don't know.
No.
Have you seen any?
There were some, but since they've built that new cow
all
barn
gone.
and dumped all the spoil
yeah,
on,
yeah.
I don't know what's left.
Mm-hmm.
Though they've got to restore it with wildflowers.
Yeah, I got a photo home. It was taken the day after I was engaged to my husband down at Shirton Bars. That was how I came to have that photo. Saying about it once, and Charles, this gentleman that did the painting, he asked him to do Shirton Bars for me.
But Ruth has got one of David Jones's paintings that Charlie gave for as a present of Shirton Bars.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So tell me about growing up. You were there from 7 until what age? What age did you leave the dairy?
Was I 19, something like that?
So you were, right, okay.
I left in, I got to think now, when my daughters were born, because they were born. My 2 daughters and Charles were born in Stogursey. Yeah. I got to think.
Were you still living at the dairy then?
Yes, yeah.
So that you stayed there until you were 19, then you...
19 or 20 I left, yeah.
So how old were you when you married?
I married in 1939. Not 39. No, that was the war started 39, 3rd of September, what was it? Oh, I forget now. I said I forget the nearest things.
How did you meet your husband? Tell me about that.
On a bus.
On a bus. Where were you going?
We were going to Taunton with my friend.
Mm-hmm. What, just shopping or?
No, pictures. We were going to the Gaumont, Taunton. And we got off and we had a feeling this man was behind us, following us. Then we went to the restaurant, at a restaurant first, have some tea. And then we could see this, he was sat at another table, and you know, you could feel people looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
So then after we'd had our tea, we nipped into the ladies, and we would both keep peeping. It was with a friend, Anne Maughan, she was. He's gone now, so we went out and went to the, pictures, then we came home. And then on the following Wednesday, we'd gone to Bridgewater, because I used to cycle up to Stringston to meet up with my friend, she lived there. Then we'd cycle up to top of Kill Hill and get a bus, picture bus. And then coming back, he'd come back like the main road, and hubby used to drink in Keenthorne pub.
Oh, the cottage.
Yeah. And he got on then and sat behind us and with a mate and tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, "I've heard there's a dance in Stogursey on Friday night." And he said, "We'll be down."
And you went. So you must have liked it.
Yeah, and that was how I met
And
hubby.
that's how it started.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Yeah. No, 49 when I was married.
49.
That's right. Yeah, 49 I married. Yeah, September the 3rd, 49.
So you were 18 then?
Yeah.
And you stayed living at the dairy until when? When did you finally move from there, did you say?
Well, we used to live between home. We'd live up at the lodge, the gatehouse in the summer, and that's where Corney's home was. Because his father was head gardener. It was a sanatorium. What is now not a school, it's a leisure centre now. Up at Overstoy, Ailey.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
But,
Corney. That was.
my hubby.
Cornelius.
Yeah. That we'd spend summer months up there because it was a great big rambling house, and it was always up colder. And we'd come back to Stogursey. Then it was Christmas 53, we moved into a new council house that had been built in Ailey.
Right. Okay.
And then we lived there, I can't remember now, how long.
Well, it was a happy childhood in Stogursey.
Yes, oh yes, yeah.
Did you have any particular friends?
Well, I suppose Jean Gwadden was one of my main friends, yeah. Used to see Frida Cable occasionally, but as I said, she went to the high school that we didn't quite see, so,
No.
I didn't see so much of her, yeah.
So it was quite safe then to walk around and go over the fields and walk everywhere, really?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, we used to play out till dark. I was never allowed out after dark.
So when your father had the dairy, he did a milk round, I think you said.
Yes, twice a day.
On a 3-wheel bike.
Yeah. Like a little tin, thing on the button, and he'd put his big cans in and have the, what do you call them?
Like a ladle?
Yeah, but I forget, it's a special name, can't think of the name now.
Yeah, I know what
like
you mean.
the measure,
A
a
measure,
pint or
yes.
2 pint, with a handle. And then some people would leave their jugs inside the doors, some would leave them outside. And you knew what they wanted, like.
And that did, apart from the milk side of it, the dairy side, how big was the farm? Did you have any other crops or?
We had quite a few fields, like.
What did you grow?
Well, hay, I suppose, mostly. Can't remember him growing corn. Hay and the hay were doing, because quite a few men from the village used to come to help then, because it was all done by horse and cart. Picks and
yes, all the farms round here.
They must have grown mangos. But I remember they used to earth them up and mangos for the winter for the.
Yeah. So what would happen then when who would buy the crops? Would they go up to Covent Garden or?
No, they just done the mangoes out and that for the cows.
So it was all just really fodder for the animals.
And we keep pigs as well. We used to keep pigs to and kill your own pig, so we didn't go short. Then Mum used to make butter, as I say. do the cream for the weekends. People used to come for their jar of cream, and they used to bring their own dish like the cream, and we used to sell the scald milk, and they used to make like blancmanges in those days with that for their Sundays.
Did you help with the cheese making?
No.
She just...
Then, of course, you kill your own pig, and you had what you called what did you call that?
A flitch or...
No, a great big wooden thing, and you used to have to sort it in. Sorter, they called it a sorter. I know, I remember Mum used to have, and sometimes she'd have a chap on her hand, and of course the one rubber gloves, when then she'd come in nearly crying with the salt, what you have to rub, the salt in for so long on the pig and that. And then they'd be cut it up, and they'd hang them in bags. They'd be hanging in your, kitchen or somewhere, in a bag, in a muslin bag.
Right.
And you would cut off them what you wanted. Either pieces to boil for ham or otherwise for bacon.
Lovely. I bet it tasted good.
Yeah, then you'd have the lard like from the bacon. It was nice. Yeah.
So during the war, I don't know, obviously around here this was a farming community. People, as you say, had plenty of everything. But with rationing in the towns, did people used to come out and buy things on the, well, not the black market?
Not as I know of. I don't know.
But
maybe it's too young to...
Yeah, I suppose so. A few deals going on. When did it cease to be a dairy?
I can't think when Mum and Dad retired. Because that's when it ceased, when they,
That's so that side of it just stopped. Then.
Yeah. Because I missed, trying to think of their names now, who had the farm after, but they just had the farm then. Plowright, Mr. Plowright had the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a bit of a...
Yeah, because the house we lived in belonged, with the farm. It was up in the village,
It all went...
Mr. Riddler Rowe had it, that's who Dad used to rent it off of in those days.
Where did he live?
They used to live up at Doddington.
Right, okay. So, your father was a tenant farmer on that.
He did buy a few fields, but then he'd rent as well. They did buy, 2 or 3 fields.
Yeah. How many cows did he have? Was it a big herd? Can you remember?
Oh, I suppose between 15 and 20.
It's big enough.
Big enough.
Yeah.
Hard work in those days. So when the men had gone off to the war, I know farming was a reserved occupation.
Yeah.
There were still plenty of people here that were able to help out on the farm.
Yeah, and we had a land girl, but she was of the village. She was a Sylvia Arlott.
Ah, right.
She worked for Dad. Yeah.
I was wondering if there were many land girls round here.
Yeah, there were quite a few.
Where did they stay? Did they stay on the farm?
Well,
or?
I suppose they did. I don't realise. Or they, as I say, then you don't, so young, you don't really.
Just take it for
they
granted.
either stayed with or I suppose in somebody that would take them in, like I say.
Mm. Was it exciting growing up in those days? Did you? How aware were you of the war and what was going on? Did it impinge very much on?
Pardon?
Well, did it? You would see army vehicles going around, I suppose, and you've got the searchlight battery, and you'd see planes going over, and presumably searchlights if they were bombing Cardiff or Swansea. Did you worry at all?
I suppose at that age, really, you didn't. So you didn't really understand it to that extent. But I know we used to be frightened, and go in because you could tell the German planes had a different sort of noise. And Mum said, come on, we used to go into this passage, because we had a long passageway to go up to the stairs, and there were no windows or anything, so we'd sit in there because,
You felt safe there.
Yeah, I felt safe there, yeah.
Yeah. I've heard that there were some German prisoners of war that worked on some of the farms locally.
Yeah.
And they stayed here afterwards.
Yes,
Did you ever
I did.
meet them?
Yeah, there was, he was called Mr. Fess, it was George Fess. He used to work up at the Priory.
Right.
And then he sort of stayed after the war, and then he had a fruit business in it, selling vegetables, all sorts, in the Cornhill. It was called Fess, Mines and Fess or something. I think that was the lady he married was, yeah.
And I think Notaro, he was an Italian prisoner of war.
Yeah.
And obviously he stayed. So they must have liked it here.
Yeah. Well, he done well, hadn't he?
Hasn't he just, yes. So there can't have been any real prejudice against them from the local people. They accepted them and let them...
Well, I don't know about the older people, but I mean, we didn't, really understand.
No. Were you ever able, if you went out to Shirton Bars, did you ever go swimming?
No, I never swam.
No, not as swimmer.
No, paddle.
Did the boys go swimming out there?
Yes.
You paddled. What else did you do when you were down
Pardon?
there? You were paddling. What else did you do when you went down?
Sand castles, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I said, of course, we're always looking for bee orchids and that to pick on, when on our way home.
You picked one on the boat.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And you were just allowed to go down there by yourselves?
Yeah.
Without the
Well, I didn't go
adults?
actually by ourselves, went with,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what
Mum and
did
Dad, or Mum mostly, because Dad was working,
Really?
or somebody, or other friend's mum or something.
So did you take a picnic with you?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Lovely. Lovely. I like picnics.
It must have been bliss.
So let me see. You wouldn't have seen the start of Hinkley Point then. You'd moved, but they started building that in what, the 1950s. Were you still around when that was?
Yes, still in Stogursey then.
You were still there then when they first
Of course,
started.
they've straightened the roads quite a bit from Stogursey to Bridgewater now, because you used to go round, all these ins and outs, yeah.
So I'm told. Victor was telling me a little bit about that.
Yeah, from Clayland Corner end, not from going in Stogursey.
Yes, they
and I
made
say
a
you used
long
to go
straight
all round.
road.
You go say round there, and then round there, and then also Rodway Hill. That was a very steep hill. I suppose it's still there, but there's all trees in that there now.
Yeah.
That was very steep. That's one of they got rid of that. Yeah.
Oh crikey!
That was
Yeah,
just as you were
they'd
going
have
to
to.
before you was going into Cummage, like
Yeah.
Rodway Hill.
So did it make a big impact on Stogursey itself, all these people coming in from outside? Did it affect you if you wanted to go down to Shirton Bars?
No.
It was.
No.
Was it very
We didn't.
noisy? Could you hear a lot of noise
Not
going on?
really. No.
So even though it was on the doorstep, it didn't really
No.
make that much difference to you.
The Americans used to come in mostly of a Sunday, and this lady had opened a shop because the actual shops were shut, like on a Sunday. Opened this little in her own house, and they used to go in there. And of course, they'd give us chewing gum, which we thought was nice. I was trying to think of the name of the one I really liked. It was a pink one. But you could never get it here. I tried it after the war, but
Really?
Dentine or something like that.
yeah.
Dentine, yeah.
There was no electricity in the village then, was there?
Pardon?
There wasn't electricity in the village.
No,
then. How
no.
did your father keep
Had
the
oil.
milk and the butter fresh? How did
Well, just
he...
it was more or less used straight away on it. So the milk
Really?
every day,
So you'd milk it, put it on the
because Dad done it twice a day.
take
The
it
milk round, yeah.
Oh God.
And if you did want to keep any, you'd scald it so it would keep longer.
Did you have a range to scald it on that was on all the time, or
Sorry.
when you scalded it, did you have a range that
Yeah.
was on all the time, or did you?
Like the old kitchen ranges.
Mum had a Cala gas stove.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose one time you had to go with a range thing. I know that was altered. And then she used to, when she used to have to put the milk in overnight and leave it to it would come to the...
So it would separate.
Separate, yes. Then she'd put it on, whatever she was cooking on, and when she'd go like that, and she could tell it was done to take off.
Really?
That was sound, yeah. It was like enamel.
Yeah.
Gold, yeah.
Could you tell by the sound or by the way the surface
No,
moved?
just the sound. She'd go like that. That's done, she'd say.
Like people do with flower pots to see if they're...
Yeah, because I say then, you'd have this vessel thing with holes in a round thing. You scoop off the cream and let the milk drain back. And I say then people Sunday mornings, they'd come for their cream with their dishes and also a jug for their scald milk.
So it must have been pretty solid.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it was lovely clotted cream.
Sounds wonderful.
Then she used to make butter for ourselves, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool, yes. And now they tell us it's bad for us, don't they? All that cholesterol. But
And there was a bakery in the village, wasn't there?
Yes,
so
yeah.
You didn't need
Well,
to make
there was two bakers. There was Tommy Hole in the village, and then there was at Burton and Mr. Westcombe.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So there was a baker there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereabouts in Burton was that?
Well, it's a cool pole, and you sort of coming back this, going back to Stogursey way.
Yeah.
I think it must have been about the first building past Cool Pole, if I remember it. Yeah. Then there was the Dyers at the Westcombes, as I say, and the farm, and also he done the bread. Like.
And you used to go skating on the pond down there.
Well, we
in the
used to
winter.
slide. My granddad used to skate. And I remember one chap went across on a motorbike.
Just for a dare?
Yeah.
That
Lucky.
must have been-
It was so solid because the winters were cold in those days.
Well, yes. But you were lucky from the dairy. You didn't have far to go to school. But when you think of some of them having to walk, they must have walked quite a long way.
I was always lucky because I lived, went to school from Clayland Corner. I was lucky. I was out, so I could have a bus. But then you come up to just Cathanger. Before you go down at the end, there's houses there, and they had to walk from there. Yet the bus went by, but you had to be so far away
to qualify for the bus.
Qualify. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Really, when you're looking back now, isn't it?
You drive past people walking.
Yeah.
Going this.
Yeah, it was 3 girls as well.
I can imagine what that was like in the winter.
Yeah, I was always lucky. And then, of course, when I came into Stogursey, just hop up the road.
Did you wear uniform to school in those days?
Sorry, I'm hard to hear.
Did you wear uniform to school in those days?
No,
Just
no,
wear clothes?
No.
So where did you get your clothes? Did your mother make them?
No, there was always, well, it's still there now, Hoopers in the Bridgewaters.
Yeah.
That's where Mum used to shop mostly, in the Hoopers. Yeah.
And shoes, I know there was a cobbler in the village.
Yeah.
Someone who could do the shoe repairs, and I think he made shoes as well.
Yeah. My grandfather, but that was in Street, he used to make shoes in Clark's factory.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Was your grandfather still alive when you were living at the dairy?
Yes. He was the one that went skating.
Right, so he lived there as well?
Yes.
So there were your parents and your grandfather.
Yeah.
And then you, and did you have brothers and sisters?
No.
Just the only one?
Yeah.
That must have been quite nice, being the only child. And you must have felt very protected.
I was never spoiled. That's true.
I'm sure.
No, I was never spoiled.
It must have been quite a lovely upbringing, though. Tell me about your grandfather. He was a shoemaker, and that was his trade, his profession.
Yeah.
And he worked in street, and then came down. Did he?
No, he was retired by the time.
Oh, he'd retired.
Yeah.
So how old would he have been then? 60s, 70s?
Must have been in his 60s, I suppose, yeah.
But he was still
retired.
fit enough to go skating.
Yes. And then he used to mend his own shoes always.
So I suppose he'd repair yours as well, and everyone else's in the family. Nice to have that in the house. What about your grandmother?
Never knew grandmother. No, she died before Mum married.
Ah,
Yeah.
I see. So that's why your grandfather came to live there.
But he only came later years. I don't know where, because when you're young, really, you don't. Or I didn't. You think, didn't where he lived to start with after his wife died. I don't know. Unless he lived with his elder daughter that never married. And I say, nowadays you think, oh, we should ask that. Because years ago you had seen and not heard, wasn't it?
That's right. Yes, I know what that was like.
It's funny that one doesn't ask at the time. I suppose it's because they are your parents. So you have...
I think when you're young, you just assume they're always going to be there.
Yeah.
This is the way it is. This is the way it always will be. And so you don't need to know these things, do you? You just take it for granted.
I'd like to trace my grandfather's side, the Mortimers. Yeah.
Right.
Because I got a feeling it might be, because he always had a Jewish nose. I wonder if it originated, along the line Jews or anything.
Yeah.
A Jewish nose.
Where did his family come from? Where did they come from the street?
As I say, you didn't.
You don't know anything about their background.
I suppose now you see so much on the television that you think, oh, why hadn't I? You just took life for granted in a way, I suppose.
I've got a Mortimer living next door, and I think he's fairly local. I mean, local to Somerset or this
Sorry.
part of the world. Sorry, we've got a Mortimer, the family Mortimer, living next door.
Oh yeah.
And I think Peter,
No, Montague. That's it.
Oh, Montague. Beg its pardon. Stupid of me.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to think. That name does ring a bell. No, I'll ask around, see if I can find anything out for you, Ruth.
He used to love his fishing, my granddad.
Really?
I used to go fishing with him.
Where did he fish?
Well, in the brooks and that around here.
Yeah, and they were still full of fish there.
Yeah, catch trout and that. That's why I never eat fish, because I used to leave it in a bowl smelling.
Oh.
Can't eat fish to this day. And then he'd have rabbits. What we called it. Well, we had the tap house. You went out for our tap, and there was a room above what he had with all his stuff in, like his tools for his juice and that. And then he used to bring on rabbits for the maggots and the smells and that. I cannot eat fish to this day. I just smell as soon as I see fish. But I used to spend hours and hours fishing. I used to go occasionally with him.
Yeah.
Is that the brook down in the field behind your house, or all around?
All around different places. He had permission to go, like from Lords and Audrey's in brooks.
So did you come across Lords and Audrey's very much?
Not a lot, no. Remember, we used to have, take carol services, then we'd go round the villages in that Holford and different places,
How would you get there? By bus or?
Walk some of the time, or few did have cars. Well, that's one thing my granddad had a car. He always had a car, Singers, I must remember that.
Good heavens.
Yeah, he had a car.
Oh, could he get petrol for it during the war?
Well, he must have. But he never went far, No. I suppose enough to drive him round where he wanted to go fishing and...
Oh, lovely. Did you ride in it very much?
Pardon?
Did you ride in it very much?
Yes.
What colour was it?
I got a feeling it was a brownie sort of colour. It's a brownie. I'm not quite sure on that now.
There can't have been many cars in the village in those days.
No.
So that marked you out
No,
as
Mr.
something a bit-
Warner had a car, little car. Remember him? 'Cause he used to deliver papers and that. That was a relation like to Jean, and yeah, and he lived in Lime Street. Mr.
Right.
Warner, yeah.
So was there a paper shop down there, or where would he
One
get
no
the,
paper shop. I can't remember a paper shop in the village.
where would he get the papers from? How would the papers get to him to deliver them?
It'd be
Would they come in on the
Bridgewater,
bus? Or?
Would it be in Bridgewater? Don't know.
No, I remember at one time down in Surrey when I was a child, things like that would be carried on the
Buses.
buses.
Yeah, it could
and they
be, yeah.
drop
Or
them
you know,
off.
in his car, he might have,
Mm,
yeah.
be interesting to
I
know.
can't remember any of the shops selling papers now.
On the way over, you were telling me that the top part of the dairy was not finished. That it was what, 3 stories?
Yeah.
But the top part,
Never finished, no, I don't know why. No.
so it wasn't used for
No,
anything then.
No,
Really,
no.
just an empty room
Yeah,
upstairs.
Yeah.
So it must have been quite a sizable house.
Oh,
with
yes, you had 3 big bedrooms, what you would call double bedrooms, and you had like what you used to call a box room in those days.
Mhm.
And then as you went up the stairs, you had a big landing, quite a big, nearly the size of a double bedroom.
Crikey.
Yeah.
Nice place to live.
How did you heat it?
Sorry,
How did you heat it?
just with the fire. Or we had a Valor stove as well. But I know I had Quincy, and they had to bring me downstairs. And I was in bed 11 weeks, and of course they had to keep the fire going day and night for me then, and they had to bring me down because I had to stay the same temperature. But I was quite plump till I had that, then as I, lost
Lost
weight.
a lot of weight.
Yeah. I
What
was in
about
bed.
the local nurses and doctors? Was there a doctor's surgery in the village?
No, it was always in Nether Stoy, and they used to come round to you.
I see.
Eventually, since I left, they had the doctor's surgeries here,
Yeah.
and there was Nether Stoy. And
But then, and this was before the national health, so I suppose you had to pay for any medical care.
Yeah.
Oh, glad those days aren't with us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is Quincy?
To tell you the truth, I don't really know. So it must be something on your chest and that,
Yeah.
because I know he used to come in about tea time, and Dad used to have a big cup for his tea, with his tea in, and I can just remember the doctor to open your mouth like that, and with the same at this pop, and then he'd remember him grabbing Dad's cup. He must have been empty unless he'd spit, and I brought all this terrible greeny, and he said if I swallowed it, it was like it would have been poisonous.
Really?
Yeah, I can just remember that. Of course, I wasn't very old.
No.
And then, of course, you don't think of these. It goes out your mind. And
Well, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
I always did have a bit of a weak chest after. Then, when I was 14, I had asthma very bad. But I lost that, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And I never smoked.
Ah, well, that
No,
helps,
no,
doesn't
no.
it? Probably just as well.
Yeah.
So when you moved away from Stogursey, your parents were still alive and
Yeah,
still running the dairy?
Still in the, yeah.
And you'd come back to visit and so on.
Yeah.
Until finally your father gave up the business and...
Yeah, and they bought a little cottage called Corsey Cottage in the village, just opposite the butcher shop. You're coming up from Lime Street,
So you've got the war memorial in front of you and
you're coming up from
the
Lime
old
Street.
formed
That side you,
butcher's shop on the corner there.
Yeah, but the opposite side, Corsey Cottage it's called.
Ah.
Yeah, that's where they retired to. Yeah.
Do you have any other relations in the area at all?
No. Did have some in, but like those days, I suppose with the war and that, you didn't have any transport to visit. With Dad, a farmer, he could never Yeah.
Yeah.
His parents, I never knew his mum died when he was a baby because his great granny brought him up. Yeah.
Did you go into Bridgewater very much?
We used to go about once a week. Yeah. But we used to be market day on a Wednesday, and that was the day. Always went to town market day.
Uh-huh.
And I suppose Dad being a farmer as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
What about going the other way towards Willerton? Did you ever go out over that way at all?
No, you never, no.
So you would always look to Bridgewater
Yes,
to provide anything that you couldn't get locally?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Taunton or have any need to go there?
No, not, when I was young.
No, I suppose not. Bridgewater
when I was grown
So
up.
that was a bit of a highlight of the week, was it?
Yeah,
to
it was.
Bridgewater. It must have been, after a village, Bridgewater must have seemed huge.
Was it a livestock market as well as fruit and vegetables?
Oh, yes, yeah.
So your father would buy and sell there?
Yes, yeah.
Do you miss those days? Do you think it was better then?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
What is it you miss most then from those days?
I don't really have to be true.
Was it the peace and quiet? The pace of life, maybe?
Yeah.
Growing up without a television, did you listen to the wireless a lot?
Oh, yes.
So in the evening, when you...
Yeah.
I know both your parents must have been very busy with, it was hard work. But if you were spending time together at home, if all the chores had been done, did you sit there with them and listen to the wireless?
Yes, you could only have it on so long because you had the batteries. And I know once or twice we went down to get the battery to put it in. It hadn't been charged up. And of course, when the war was on, they wanted to hear, what was happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
You only allowed, different programs because of the batteries running out and that.
Yes, I suppose.
How long did the battery last?
Oh, it's about a week, something like that. Or accumulators, they were called.
Yes, a little lead accumulator.
Yeah.
That seems to have made quite a big impression on a lot of people, having to do that. It's one of those things that we forget about now.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't have been any gas lighting or anything
No
like that.
electric, nothing, no.
No.
Candles.
Candles. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Did you use candles a lot?
Pardon?
Did you use candles a lot?
Yes,
So
yeah.
was the
Especially if you're
candle
going to
factory?
bed night. Yeah.
Really? Was the candle factory still there?
No.
You've gone by then.
No. And where Dad's farm was a big building, and that was called the barracks. So they must have had soldiers there once upon a time.
It was known as the barracks.
The barracks,
yeah?
yes.
Good heavens.
As you start to go over the Bailey, I don't know if the building's still there now.
Yeah.
The big building.
Yeah.
This side, like you go over the Bailey.
Well, maybe during the First World War,
Yeah, something like
possibly,
that,
or even before that.
Yeah.
They might have had
That always went as
militia
the
or
barracks,
people there. Fascinating. So much that we don't know, that we're trying to find out about.
Ruth, when you brought the harvest in, was the horse your horse?
Sorry.
When you brought the harvest in, was the horse your horse? And
Yeah,
you had cattle and just
A
one horse?
Yes, yeah. One cart horse you had.
Right.
Yeah.
Did he plough as well?
Yes, oh yes.
What was he called?
Flower.
Ah.
I don't know if any before that, but I can remember Flower and then later.
Yeah.
Used
Did
you to
you?
get on his back?
Yes,
That must have been lovely. Did you ever groom him, or did you help look after the horse?
Sometimes, yes, not often.
Yeah.
Because I suppose you weren't like, you were weren't like right on the farm. I think that made a difference.
Yes,
If
that,
you
having
get
that
out,
bit of separation.
Yeah.
So, yes, you'd spend more time at home at the dairy.
Yeah.
And would
We
you...
used to go down and play a lot because we used to play in what we call the barracks, and you know, with Jean and 3 different ones, and that used to be our house. And
there was nothing in there then. It was just an empty
no,
building.
yeah, we'd get some boxes and
Lovely.
boxes and make us, like, you know. So I remember having the chicken house once as our house. You had where they laid their eggs. That was your cupboards.
Yes, I can imagine.
When you were children playing together down there, did you make up stories around people that lived in the village? Were there any people that you thought were perhaps a little bit odd or a little bit...
Only I said, only this granny can't be here. We were all frightened of.
Where did she live?
Down in one of the almshouses. Because the almshouses in Lime Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Lime Street.
That's
One
right,
time that was all women's. And the
Ah.
others that's all altered now. That was the men's.
That was the
So,
men's
yeah,
down
it was,
there.
you know.
And Granny Canterbury.
Yeah. I know she had this bonnet now. She was so frightened of her, all of us. We thought she was a witch. I think sometimes she used to wave her stick at us, and more like we'd tease her a bit. My brothers.
So she must have been
Quite elderly.
a local person
Yeah.
who moved into the almshouses,
Yeah,
perhaps
that's
after her
yeah.
husband had died or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not a name that you hear anymore.
No,
It's
no.
one of those forgotten
Mm.
families.
There's Honeybeer. There's Honeybeer
Honeybeer
Woods.
Farm as well.
Yeah. This was, yeah. So it could have been connection one time. Yeah.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much, Ruth. I'm sure there'll be all sorts of things that we'll think
Pick
about.
some of
when-
it out.
Yes.
Yeah, as I say that's Jean where they got Betty. I don't know if you keep in contact with the gentleman.
Well,
Or
we
not.
do,
Yeah.
because he is very keen.
Yeah. See, he's my age, I see. 82.
But you don't
But I say
remember
I can't-
him.
I can't remember him one bit, not now. No, I've been
We-
studying.
He wasn't here for long, I suppose.
No. And I say it was the British,
Yeah.
what he thought was, yeah.
So you were telling me earlier, Ruth, when we came over about the evacuees.
Yeah.
You had a girl stay with you?
Yeah, as I said, she was with her mother. That was the beginning, you know, like the war.
Yeah.
But she didn't like it, you know.
And went back
Yeah.
to...
I'd
Did
rather
she
go.
come from London?
Yeah, at East End, you know.
Yeah.
Because when we started first, there was dozens and dozens came to the village.
Really?
Yeah.
With their mothers or just the children?
Some with their mothers and some without. Yeah.
Golly,
Yeah, because
billeted.
of course East End was,
Yeah.
you know, the dock ends, wasn't it?
Yeah.
London. Yeah.
Yeah, very badly blitzed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them came from London because they were afraid of the bombing.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then when it didn't happen initially,
No.
they wanted to go back.
Yeah, as I say, like this Mrs. Dye, she was called. She just couldn't stick the quietness of the country. I'd rather go back, be bombed, than live here. And Mum wanted to keep Gladys,
Yeah.
but she don't want taking my daughter back. Yeah.
And you didn't have another one after that?
Can't remember any.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple from Bristol. Funny enough, they were called Mr. and Mrs. Clark, mother and daughter from Bristol, because that was getting bombed one time. Funny, they were Mr. and Mrs. Clark, but without the E.
Used you to play with the daughter, or what, did you
Yeah.
mind
I got a
having her in your
photo. I
house?
should have found out outside
Yeah.
the dairy with. See what photos I have got.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah.
If you
I
could.
got
it'd be
one with, as I
smashing.
say, with Maureen. We were dressed as nurses then. Doctors and nurses.
We would love to, and
See
and
what
copy
photos I
them.
have got.
This, to have all the names, is just wonderful.
Yeah, I was trying write them down for you, mustn't I?
So the evacuees must have been here, there, and everywhere, all over the all over the parish.
Yeah, especially like the beginning of the war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Wasn't
Mum
someone
still,
who came
she had a
around-
shop to start with. Then, as I say, when the rationing comes, she stopped. But I mean, we had that. I remember, the shop full of them. Mum was giving them drinks and different things as they come, away with nearly nothing really.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know they were coming, or did they just sort of suddenly
More or
arrive?
less, I can't really. I expect more or less they just arrived. And those, back then, there was lots of war and frightening and that.
Yes.
Yeah, she had the shop, and as I say, till rationing came in, but she'd sell sweets. She had a big long counter of sweets in it, and I used to. I've gone up and down that counter several times. Can't find nothing here. I'm going over the road to Miss Dyer's. That was a little shop up a little bit further. Yeah, because it was our shop, Miss Dyer's shop. Then there was Mrs. Glover's shop. Then later there was the bakery, but that came later. That was it. And then there was post office and shop. The post office was separate to the shop then. They were all grocery shops. And I worked in, when I left school, I worked in the upholstery shop. And of course, it was just after the war, and you had great big blocks of butter, and of course, rationing was still there, and you had to cut it up into about 2 ounces. And,
Oh my God!
and the boss used to say, "Don't over or under." You had to have it just right.
Exactly.
And then this gentleman used to come, weights and measures man. He was a great big man. He strutting through, and we girls would be shaking in our shoes. He was going to, he'd plonk it on. Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did you work there?
4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So straight from when you left school,
Oh, yeah.
you got a job in the village,
Yes, yeah.
in the
Yeah,
groceries.
And I did give up a bit before because I was getting asthma attacks so bad,
Yes.
Yeah.
How did they treat asthma then?
Well, eventually with,
With
sprays,
inhalers,
yeah. But touch wood, I lost it.
Well, you're very fit now, I must say.
Yeah.
Don't you think Ruth looks like Charlie?
Yes.
First thing I thought
As
when
soon as I saw you.
Exactly.
Yeah, as I say, a lot of people have said I've, gone in the pub or somewhere, "You Charlie Cook's mother." Well, I always
Difference
said
is that you're
Charles
pretty.
I always said Charles is like my father, and everybody used to say I was like my father.
Oh, right.
Then some people used to, when Mum and Dad, I remember them saying when they started courting first, they thought they were brother and sister.
Really?
Yeah.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you got a photograph of your parents at the dairy?
Yeah. Well, not at the dairy, no.
Yeah. Well, that would be lovely because that might again
No, not at the
spark
dairy. I
memories.
got,
Yeah, if we could copy any photographs,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course,
Yeah, I'll
they'd
look
be
through
well
my
looked after.
photographs and see what I have got of round about Stogursey.
Oh, that would
But I
be
know I got
smashing.
some. I know there's one with a friend when we're walking up through the village and taking outside what was Mrs. Glover's shop.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
That
lovely.
would
yeah,
be
see,
lovely.
go home and have a route around, see
Thank
what
you
I
so
got.
much.
And we must find a way to copy the photographs so we get good
Yes.
good
Well,
copies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well, Aubrey, possibly.
Yeah, because that's quite dark, really, isn't it, compared to today's photos. Trust me to be sticking out there.
I don't think you stick out.
What a lovely bunch of children. Really. Golly. They look so happy.
Yeah,
It
I
must have
suppose
been
we
a
were
very
happy.
happy
Yeah,
school.
yes. Yeah, as I say, quite a few of us not with us now, unfortunately. He was a fisherman's, when they used to sell fish, and they used to live down at Shirton, fishermen, and they moved to Stowford. I don't know if was it.
they fished in the bay, did they?
He used to fish out, yeah. Well, they still do now, don't they, Brendan?
Yes,
Yeah.
Brendan
Selleck, yeah. I was
Selleck
just
still.
wondering, I don't think he's here. He was younger than me, Brendan. But his father used to do the same, like, you know.
Mud horsing.
Brewers they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. His father was a coalman. Used to deliver coal. Roy Chidgey. There's still the building down there now as you go down the end of Mill Street. I call it Mill Street.
Yes, I
yeah,
know what you
yeah.
mean. Down there?
Yeah, yeah. He used to have his coal yard.
Oh,
Yeah, it was,
lovely.
was it like tinny? What do you call that? Tinny stuff.
Oh,
Corrugated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was the coal yard.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Where did they take the fish?
Round the village and that used to sell it. Yeah. They'd cycle in. They'd cycle miles selling it in their store and everywhere. Yeah. Shrimps.
Anything to earn a few shillings, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Times were hard and you had to work for the money, didn't you?
Certainly
One
did
way or
those days.
another.
No handouts those days, unfortunately.
No.
And you just knock on the door and hope someone was
well,
in.
I suppose, you know, people would, I suppose, have order.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, years ago, you'd have this today, that tomorrow, more or less, you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, there may
I
be
suppose.
gypsies round here.
Pardon?
Ruth. Gypsies.
Oh, yes, yeah, the gypsies, yeah.
And did they help on the farms?
Well, they used to do pea picking. That was bean and pea picking, the gypsies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where would they stay? Where would they camp when they came?
I think one time, down around Paddens, there was a camp there. Yeah.
Right.
Because I think there's a camp down Farton Hill or somewhere now.
Yes,
a
there
gypsy
is.
place.
Yes,
I've seen
yes.
that in somewhere. Oh, I don't know if it's
Yes.
in there, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And did they mix at all with the local children? If the
Well, the children, some of the children used to come to the school, but they, you know, they didn't like mix much with us. I think they felt out of place, really.
Yes, I
But
suppose it
some
must
did,
have been
yeah.
hard for them
Yeah,
to
yeah.
live that sort of life.
Yeah.
A few weeks at school while their
Yeah.
parents were working and then
Yeah.
move on again.
Yeah.
So where did they move to and where did they come from? They just had a circuit, I suppose,
Yeah,
and
must
they
have done. I
followed.
suppose the different, whatever's work, I suppose, was about.
Yeah. So they wonderful. Thank you very much, Ruth. Perhaps if we think about other things that we've forgotten about now,
And I was
would you be happy
try and put
to...
my little grey cells as he used to see to work. Yeah, as I say, you'd have to rewrite that there, won't you?
I will correct
Correct,
that.
correct,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll have to tell Morris that you don't
Yeah.
remember him.
No. He remembered me through the farm, wasn't it?
Yes. This comes out of the piece I'm going to put in for this coming month.
Yeah.
So it's Dulcie who forced you into this.
Well, she did actually force me into it because I've been toying about it, and
Yeah.
Charles had come home. You haven't been down to that pan yet, have you? And going up one thing and the other. And then, as I say, then Dulcie, how she talks
Oh,
and that
I
about
know,
Dulcie,
yes.
yeah. And then she said, Marion, so I got a copy, and Dulcie, I'll get you one. Yeah.
Oh,
And she
Maurice
said, I delivers them. Yeah.
Morris remembers it at the happiest time of his life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was a happy village. Yeah.
It was a happy village.
Eliza Chilcott. But I know we had a relation to her. Somebody else, but he was Will, so but he used to lodge with Mum one time. And she was Chilcott. Of course, we didn't know there was Mrs. and Mr. those days. You didn't actually know Christian names, did you? You never.
No,
Never. It was all Mr. or Mrs.
Mr.
Even
Mrs.
if Mum
Chilcott.
and was friendly with somebody, it was either that Mr. or Mrs. or you could perhaps say Auntie, wasn't it?
Yes,
But
that's
no,
right.
No Christian names,
Oh,
but I
no.
bet that's the same lady that Mum had, her grandson living with us for a few years. That was just before the war started. Then he went in the war. That was Stan Wills.
He was a lodger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could, if you ask him if he knew you know, but he might, yeah. Because I can't remember what other chilcotts were down at the almshouses then, but I know that's why he couldn't stay, because Granny was in the almshouse.
Oh,
and
right.
He was called
Was that Stan
Stan
Wills?
Wills, yeah. And he went in the army. You know.
Did he get through?
Yes, and he met a girl from Bridgewater and married, you know, and he didn't come back to Mum. He met this girl in, you know,
All right.
Bridgewater, yeah, and then, of course, there and they married her.
Was there much disagreement between the people from Stowe and the people from...
Never, hardly mixed in those days. Don't ask me why, but no.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And people just took this for granted?
Yeah.
It had always been that way?
Well, it hasn't been in my time. I've always gone this way. All right, but it was about, you know, many years ago it was, yeah. Stowe and Stogursey never got on. He fights and that.
The men from the hills and the men from the sea, I suppose.
Could be.
I don't know.
It was, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's reminiscing.
Well, that's... I just...
You stop the